So now we can get started on our coding, and to code something we'll need to add a script. So go to your asset folder, right click, click create, and then select the C# script. And this script can be called keybind script. This keybind script needs to be attached to a game object in our in our hierarchy here to work. So we need to add a new game object to attach this keybind script. Usually you can also attach it to the camera. I just think it's a bad practice to do that. So click on create, select then create empty, and then rename this to keybind manager. And then take the keybind and move it all the way up here to the keybind manager. So now we have already added it to the scene, and it runs whenever we run our game. So now we can double click on it to open it up so that we can actually write some code in it. Okay, so when your script is open, we will need to add something called a dictionary. But before we actually do that, I would need to explain you what a dictionary is so that you actually know what you're doing here. First of all, we will need to add the correct namespace so that we can actually use the dictionary. Because if you look here and we try to write dictionary, there's nothing called a dictionary here. There's dictionary based on something else. So to be able to use the dictionary, we'll need to go up here to our namespaces and write using system.collections.generic. So now we have included the correct namespace, and we can go down here and write private dictionary, pops up, and then you can open one of these brackets here. So if you have noticed, well, then it says that it needs a key, like a generic key and a value. And that's because a dictionary consists of a key and a value pair. And the key is the key that you use to access the dictionary, and the value is the actual value stored in that place. You can look at it as some kind of label that links to a specific value so that you can return that value. In our case, we are going to store the value up, for example. Then it's going to return the key that we're using to move upwards. And if we access the dictionary by saying down, then it's going to return the key that makes it move downwards, for example. So you can basically look at this as a label and an item relationship. Let's say you have, for example, some boxes, and on each box you have a label, like one label that says money and one label that says scissors, for example. And if you look at the label money and open up the box, well, then there is money and you get the money out. If you open up the box with scissors, well, then you get some scissors out. So this is basically what we're going to do. So I can show you a simple example of this before we actually start using them with the key codes that we're going to do. So this code I'm writing right now is just an example, and you don't need to write it. I'm going to tell you when you need to write the code. You can of course write it if you want to follow along and test it out yourself. So let's say we have our dictionary here. And inside that dictionary, we'll have to store some different items. Let's say that we have some strings. Because we define the data type it needs as a key. You can use any data type as key. You can use integers, you can use strings, you can use objects or something else. So this is the key we'll use to access the dictionary, for example a string, because we can use it as a label. Then we need to define what kind of values that we are going to store in this dictionary. In our case later, it's going to be key codes, because that's our key presses. But you can also store integers, you can store different strings, you can store objects and so on. So let's say that we want to store an integer here. Then we need to give the dictionary an identifier. Let's say test example. And then we need to instantiate it like this. Okay, so now we have our dictionary. To add something to our dictionary, we can simply say test example.add, and we want to tell what key we need to store something under. Well, we need to store something under the key called animal, for example, animals. So now we add a key called animals, and we need to store how many animals do we have. We have 10 animals. Then we save it. Then we need to say test example.add, and then we need to store, for example, how many cars do we have, and we have 2 cars, for example. Okay, so now we have stored 2 values, a value of 10 and a value of 2, and 10 is put under the label of animals, and 2 is put under the label of cars. So if we want to write this in our console, we can say debug.log test example, and then write animals. And then it will write to the console that we have 10. It's just going to print out 10, and we can do the exact same thing for our cars here. Okay, if we save the script and go to Unity here, and we open up the console and we play the game. Okay, maybe we shouldn't put it in full screen. Yeah, as you can see here, it writes 10 and 2, and that's because that we just saved the value of 10 under the key animals, and we saved the value of 2 under the key cars. So this is basically what we're going to do. We're simply going to add a dictionary that contains the keys, and one key could be up and another one could be down like this. And then we're going to save a key code so that if I ask the dictionary for my up key, then it's going to return the up key to me. Okay, so if you have done this example, delete the code down here, go up to the dictionary and write key code and key code here, because we need a string, and we need to store a key code in our dictionary and then rename the dictionary to keys. So the rest of this doesn't take a lot of code, but it might be a little complicated. So I'm going to do it in steps to make you understand what we're actually doing. So first of all, we will need to access the text on all the keys out here so that we can change the W to a up arrow, for example, if we decide to use the up arrow for moving. So in here, we need to make some public text. And if you can't find the text, you can right click on it, quick actions, and then using Unity System.ui. Here it is, using Unity Engine.ui, that's what it's called. So if you can't find the text here, just go up here on top and write using Unity Engine.ui. When we have the text, we can write up, left, down, right, jump. Okay, so now we have access to the text from in here. When we've done that, we need to fill up the dictionary. So the way we are filling up the dictionary right now is just temporary. We are going to make a little change later to make it fit our needs, but this is simply for giving a better understanding of this and seeing how stuff works. So let's just do this. Let's say keys.add. Then we need to add under the up key, we need to write up so that we can actually fetch the correct key by writing up. Then we can write keycode.w, for example. So this is the up. So you can simply just take this one and paste it a couple of times. So we have up, down, left, right, for example. W is and A and D. There we go. Okay. So now we have added the keys to our dictionary here. So now the keys are stored in the dictionary so that we can use them. But right now we are not this is not reflected on the text we have in our Unity game. So basically we need to set the text of all these to be equal to the correct key code here. If we go out here, you'll see that we have the keybind manager, and here we have 5 different texts we'll need to set. So we need to open the canvas, open the content area, and then we need to take the text of each and every one of them and put in here. So the up text needs to go in the up slot, the left text needs to go in the left, the down needs to go in down, and right text needs to go in right, and jump text needs to go in jump here. And this is the text that is actually underneath each button here, as you can see. It's not just the text that is out here, but it's the text under the button. So WASD space here we're adding, so we can change it. Okay, now we have done that, so we can actually set the text in here. So if we say up.text equals keys up. Okay, as you can see now, it complains, it says cannot implicitly convert type Unity Engine.keycode to a string. And that's because we have a key code in our keys, and under the key up, maybe it's a little confusing because everything is called keys right now, but under the string key, which we have defined here, called up, well, under here we have a key code, and returns a key code, which is W in our case. And the text can't just translate that, so we need to write dot to string to translate this called to translate key code dot a into, this is going to be translated into this. This is just something I'm writing. So this key code dot a is going to be translated into a string here by doing this to string, because a is stored on here. So then the a is stored out here. Not a, of course, it's w, it's not a, because we're not going to the left. But I hope you understand what I mean. So the key code dot w is transferred into a w like this, of course, so we can store it in our text. And we need to do this for every single one of our keys here. So just copy, paste it. Sometimes we actually need jump up here, so just do like this, copy and paste jump, and key code dot space. Then I forgot that one. Then we need to copy paste these down here, left, right, and then we of course also need our jump down here. Okay, and then of course it doesn't need to be up text, it needs to be down, it needs to be left, and this is our right, this is our jump. Yes, okay, so now we have made sure that our keys are right, so let's just try to play our game. Everything should stay the same right now. Yeah, WASD and space. But let's say that we go into our script here and we say that we want to move on keycode dot up arrow, for example, and we want to jump on J. So let's try to save this, and now it should change out there. Yeah, so now you can move up is up arrow and jump is J. So this is basically what we are going to do from out here at some point. But now I hope you understand how it works out there. So we have our dictionary with our keys, and we can change the keys by altering these here. So now that we have our keys, we can actually add some actions to them. So down here in our update, we can actually make an if statement that's if our input dot get key down, for example, keys, and then we need to access the up key. So if we press the key that we have assigned to move up, well, then we need to do some action for move up. So in here, you would actually do a move action. But in our case, we're simply going to take debug.log up. There we go. But yeah, in reality, you would add some functionality for moving an object here, for example. Let's try to copy this and paste it here, 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 here. So then we have up, we have down, we have left, we have right, and we have jump. And we need to write the same things in here. Okay, so when you have made all these if statements here, to make sure that if you press the get key down and then you access the dictionary up here and go for the up key, well, then it writes up in the console. So let's try to save this and go into Unity and play our game. Let's just try not to be full screen for once. And if you press this key here, you'll see that it actually works. On space also works. So now it actually moves the player around when you press these keys. You can see they keep working. So now we have assigned some keys from within our script, but of course we need to add some functionality so that we can assign them from our game, of course. So now we need to add that functionality so that we can change the keys in here. We need to add one more variable up here. So underneath our public game object here, we need to make another game object, a private game object, and we're going to call it current key. So the current key is the key that we're actually editing right now. For example, our up key, and then we need to bind it to up arrow or W or whatever. So if we go down here, we'll need to add a new function because we need to be able to set the current key, and we need to listen for some key events and everything. And we're going to do that in a function called onGUI. And the reason that we are doing it in onGUI function here is because update is not running as many times as the onGUI function, and the GUI function is actually executing more times than the update, and it's listening for all these events. So basically it's better to fix or call the events from that onGUI function instead. So under update, you'll have to write one void on GUI, and then you need to do like this, make a scope and finish it. So basically we are also using the onGUI function because it's the only place where these events will work. If we try to write it in update, we'll get some exceptions. So the onGUI function runs more than update, as I said before. Anyway, if our current key isn't null, so if our current key exists, if we have pressed one of our keys in our game, well, then we need to make an event. So an event E, and it's equal to event.current. So the current event is what's being processed right now. So if we press the F key, for example, then the current event will be equal to the F key here. So that's also why, because the onGUI runs so many times, so it can pick up on all these different events, these different mouse clicks and key presses and everything. Okay, so then we can catch the key here. And if the event, if E.isKey, so if the event is a key press, then we need to handle it. We need to make sure that we assign the correct key and so on. So if our E is key, if our keys current key dot name, so if the name of our current key, or not if, but we're going to set the name of our current key to e.keycode. Okay. So if you can see what I'm doing here, the current key is going to be the key that we press. So in our game, if we, for example, run our game and I press the W button like this, then our current key is going to be this W. And when I've done that, then I'm going to say, well, the current key dot name, because it's called up, so we're going to find the up key in our dictionary. And the up key in our dictionary is going to be equal to the key code we just pressed. So when I press the F button, for example, it's going to bind up to the F button. So the W key here is going to be replaced with an F key, for example. Just an example. Then we're going to change the text on the keyboard key by writing current key dot get component text. That text is equal to e.keycode to string. So now it's going to be written F there, for example, if we change it. Yeah, and then we're going to set the current key to null. Okay, then we need to go to our function down here. We need to make a new function, void public void change key game object clicked. And by the way, it's very important to write this onGUI correctly with a big O and last letters GUI. If you don't do this, then it's not going to be fired at the correct time, or it's not going to work, that is. Okay, so change key is very simple. If our current key, or actually we're going to add that later, just going to add the functionality now. So current key is equal to clicked. So now when we click an object, we're going to set it equal to clicked. And that's actually it right now. We are going to change some colors down here and everything. But right now we're going to set it so when I click the W, it's going to set it to click. Then this onGUI is going to run. And it's going to see the current key is not null anymore. So we're going to listen for the next event. If the event is a key pressed, then we are going to set the key press and change the text and set the current key to null, so this code doesn't run anymore. Now we need to make sure that the change key is running, so jump into Unity and don't mind that. And then select the, where did we put it, on some key manager here. Guess we need to save our script. Just remember to save your script. Need to update. Yes, okay, so now it's saved. So let's jump into background and then, for example, select the up key here. And on the up button, there is an on-click event. Click the plus here and then select the keybind manager and drop it in here. And then go to the no function, select keybind script and select the change key. Then it asks for a game object, and the game object is actually itself. So take the up key and drag it onto here. So now it has a reference to itself. So when we click this, it's going to run this code, change key, and the game object is going to be equal to the object we just clicked, the up button out there, and then it's going to be set as the current key. And that's why we are using the current key.name, and that's why it's important that it has the correct name here, up, so that when we try to assign something, it is called up, so that we can assign up here and set the correct key. Yeah, we need to do the same for the others. So simply just, I think we can maybe select more of the time. Yeah, left, down, right, jump, click plus, and then drag the keybind manager, maybe. Yeah, select function, keybind script, and then select the change key. But then you need to select them individually and drag themselves onto all these, and right, and jump. Okay. So now they have all been assigned. So if we run the game now, and you click on the W first and click any button, then we get a reference exception. Let's see what's wrong. Object reference not set to an instance of an object. Let's figure out why it does that. And I think I know why. Let's see if we go in here. So it says current key get component text text equals key code to string, and that's not going to work because the text is sitting on the child object, as you can see here. So we need to say current key and then get the correct child and then add it, because right now we're trying to access the text on the jump and there's no text component. But if we click on the child object here, you'll see the text component is sitting right here. So we need to go back in here and say current key transform dot get child 0 dot get component text. So now we are getting our child on position 0, which is the only child here. So let's save, jump back into Unity and run again. And let's try to click W and click the F button. So now it's reassigned to F. Click A and reassign it to V, for example. Okay, so if I press F and V now, you'll see that these two are increasing because I'm pressing the buttons. Now they work. And what else? Yeah, as you can see, the old buttons doesn't work anymore. It's only these are reassigned. So W and what was it? A doesn't work anymore. So now we have actually reassigned our buttons. You can also reassign space to H, for example. So now we can spam H to jump. Okay. As you can see, there's no indication of us changing these around. So basically, we should change the color of these when we click them, and we can do that in a very simple way. We need to add 2 more variables to do this. In the top here, we can write private color 32 normal. This is the normal color, and it's equal to new color. This is just the RGBA colors for this. You can simply just change this if you want other colors. 39, 171, 249, 255. This is the normal color we just had before, the blue color. And then we need to create a private color 32 selected equals new color 32 as well. Also need to write 32 up here, and then write 239 116, 36, and 255. So these are the two colors that we are going to use, and it's just simple two colors, and you can change them however you want it. So in the on GUI, we will need to say whenever we click a key, we need to set the color to normal. So current key dot transform, current key dot get component image color is equal to normal. So then we set the color back to normal when we are done setting the key. When we are in the change key here, we'll need to make a if statement. If our current key isn't null, then we're going to say current key dot get component image dot color equals normal. Because if we click one key and then click another one right after, instead of just assigning that key we selected, then we need to recolor the old one to blue so we know that one is not selected. So this is what we're doing here. If we didn't have this code, we will be able to click on all the keys and make all of them orange in this case to select them. And then we need to say current key, down here, after we have set it, we need to say current key, get component, image, color equals selected. So now we are coloring all our keys. Let's try to save this and jump into Unity. Play. So if I click the W, change color to orange, I assign it to T, it gets there, and click A, it gets orange and assigned to something else. And as you can see, if I click the others, it changes color. So if I wouldn't reset the color, they will all be orange, but you can see which button you're actually assigning right now. So I think I'm going to wrap up this part now. In the next part, we are going to have a quick look at the save function and how we can save it, save our keys, because right now when we run our game and we stop and play again, you'll see that they have actually been reset, and we will like the option to click the save button so that everything still works as it did last time we played our game.